Hey guys, Gojo to A51 here with the next film in our Godzilla review / retrospective. Okay. Sandai Kaiju Chiku, Sedai no Kishin. English translation, Three Giant Monsters, Greatest Battle on Earth. Here in America, it was known as Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster. And release on DVD as Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster. So, yeah. Okay, this is the beginning of a new chapter for the Godzilla franchise. The crossover and the interplanetary problems. So, our film begins in Tokyo, where there's a bunch of astronomers looking at the sky wanting to, spot UFOs. Okay. They can't see any UFOs, so they immediately blame the outsider, a woman who is a reporter, also one of the main characters of the story. Saying that, she doesn't believe and that her brainwaves are sending messages to the aliens and they don't want to come. Then a meteor shower starts to happen. It's like, okay. And, several of the meteors are going over, and one of them lands at Mount Fuji. Meanwhile, over the years of coming into Japan, a princess is coming to visit, when all of a sudden she starts hearing a voice in her head. And she actually stands up from her seat and leaves the plane. She opens the door and just jumps out. No parachute. Okay. A few seconds later, the plane explodes. So the voice was actually warning her, hey, there's something wrong, you need to get out, and she does, and she survives. Kind of. So, a few days go by, and we meet another one of the main characters of the story. Who is actually the brother of the reporter from earlier. And over at Mount Fuji, a professor and his team go to look at one of the fallen shooting stars, which is actually this massive meteor. A magnetic meteor that seems to be giving off this weird kind of emission, but, we'll get into that later. When all of a sudden this woman arrives in Japan, looking a lot like the princess, and she says that there is a huge disaster coming to Earth and everyone is going to die. So, she escapes into the distance, and everybody's saying, oh wow, she's crazy. They're trying to find out what's going on, when all of a sudden at Mount Eso, sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly, she is there, and she's saying that the first part of the disaster is coming from there, and everyone seems to think, oh, it's a volcano, so okay, then the volcano's going to erupt. She's like, no, not the volcano, but a dormant monster shall arise, named Rodan. I'm like, oh, there's no monster in there. A dude's hat blows off, goes into the crater, and he pays a guy to go down and get it. The guy goes down, and they see a huge nail. Suddenly the earth starts to shake, and out comes Rodan. Okay, here's a little side thing. I'm probably going to get yelled at for this, but in the film Rodan, in 1956, I think it was, Rodan and his sister or brother or whatever, there are two Rodans in that film, and they were both defeated by an active volcano. This active volcano So, in a way, tying the franchise of Rodan to Godzilla. And Mothra, which we'll get into later. So, we got ourselves a huge crossover years before Marvel did this. So, that's pretty cool. So, next thing we know, the girl is at a dock, and she's saying that another disaster is going to come. But before that, it's an odd thing. Speaking of Mothra, the twin fairies, the Shobijin from the film Mothra vs. Godzilla, are actually at a stage performance. And they're talking to two kids and saying, oh yeah, Mothra is resting comfortably. They're like, wait a minute, weren't there two of them? And they're like, well, yeah, unfortunately one of them died. And, you know, they're showing Mothra. But then the Shobijin are about to take a boat ride for some reason. The same boat ride where this woman is, calling herself a Venusian. And she says that the second disaster will arise from the sea. Godzilla. And everyone sees that Rodan has arisen, so everybody's getting a little worried. So the Shobijin, and they actually leave the boat. Later that night, the ship is out at sea, when who should show up? Godzilla. And he destroys the ship, and yeah, pretty much. So we cut back to land, and the reporter from earlier has caught up with the Venusian and is trying to, get an interview out of her, but this woman is just, she's really out there. It's almost like she's from Venus. Makes you wonder if it was a guy that was taking over, he'd be from Mars. Maybe. So, cut back a little bit. The princess is the Venusian, but her mind is just so believing that she's this Venusian that, she's not really acting like herself. However, the country that she came from, her uncle wants to seize power of the area. However, the princess, her niece, she's the princess, she's going to become queen one day. And he wants her assassinated. That's why the plane exploded earlier in the film. But since she's still alive, he tells his right-hand man to go finish the job, and he's upset that the princess is still alive. So the henchman and his best men go out to Japan, and they actually catch up with the princess. However, the princess, she's not referring to herself as a princess, so like, oh, we better not take any chances. Meanwhile, at this time, the reporter is in the lobby having a drink with her brother, who's a police officer, who's actually given the task of finding the princess and protecting her. So a big firefight happens upstairs. After the Shobijin are able to turn the lights off and stop the assassins from killing the princess/Venusian, the police officer breaks in and he's trying to help, and the assassins get away. Meanwhile, Godzilla has made landfall, and he begins his destruction. However, Rodan is in the same area, and Godzilla locks eyes with Rodan and begins following Rodan. So, the police officer takes the princess/Venusian. I gotta think of a burn. Princess Salino. Okay, takes her to see a very trusted neurologist and wants to find out what's going on with her. So they go into the mountains and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her, and she says the disasters are here and she is the last surviving person from Venus. And like, oh, well, if you're the last surviving person of Venus, where have you been all this time? And she's like, oh, I've been on Earth for 5,000 years, and a certain terror has come. The terror of space. King Ghidorah. And he has come to Earth and is planning on destroying it just like he did to Venus. And how Venus used to be a technological, wonderland. And they're like, oh, well, when's he going to be here? She's like, oh, he's already here. We cut back to the mountains, and the meteor cracks open, revealing a fireball containing King Ghidorah. At this time, Godzilla and Rodan are battling each other. Back and forth. Godzilla's picking up Rodan, slamming him around. His atomic breath is doing nothing against Rodan. And the fight is just intertwined with the scenes of the princess getting an EEG, and it's just, a lot of things are going on at the time. So, the Shobijin are with this group at the same time, and they say, well, we can call Mothra and have her try to help, but she cannot defeat King Ghidorah by herself. And they're like, oh, what are we going to do? She says, we can have Mothra talk to Rodan and Godzilla, and hopefully they will help fight. So, Mothra Larva comes to comes to Japan in record-setting time. Seriously, they start doing their song and dance, and she's there in like 5 minutes. Like, wow. So anyway, Godzilla and Rodan are still battling, and Mothra starts using her little silly string to, calm them down. Giving me bad flashbacks of Mothra versus Godzilla. It's like, oh no, they're gonna beat Godzilla again with this. But anyway, she's talking with Rodan and Godzilla. And it's funny, in the English version, they actually go into more what Godzilla and Rodan are saying, and apparently they talk like sailors, because they're saying, like, oh, Godzilla, Rodan, what terrible language. But pretty much Godzilla and Rodan are saying, oh, the humans bully us with their weapons, so why would we bother helping them? So Mothra is like, fine, I'll fight King Ghidorah by myself. Meanwhile, the assassins have come to the medical center where the princess is getting her mental study done, and another firefight comes, and they're shooting at each other and just craziness when King Ghidorah shows up. A little bit down the way from where Mothra is and where Godzilla and Rodan are. And the battle begins. Mothra starts fighting with King Ghidorah. Okay, it's not a fight. King Ghidorah is just throwing Mothra around with his gravity beams, just being completely awesome. Well, Mothra, touched a spot in Godzilla and Rodan because a few seconds later, Godzilla and Rodan join the fight. And the huge battle begins. All these monsters are fighting each other. When the assassins escape the area, King Ghidorah causes a landslide, killing several of the assassins, but the main man is still alive, and he has a sniper rifle. So everyone's trying to evacuate the area, this village where Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah are fighting. And the police officer and the princess are separated. The assassin has his rifle, he's shooting at, trying to kill them, when another rock slide happens and kills the assassin, leaving the cop severely wounded. And I think the princess has a metal skull because she actually catches a headshot during the fight, and she falls probably about 30 feet into like a ravine looking thing, and she survives. She's tough. Yeah, things start to clean up there when Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra are all teaming together. Ghidorah actually using gravity beams on Godzilla, zapping him in very private extremities. And just, Ghidorah seems really powerful until they all start combining their attacks on Ghidorah. Rodan is on the back of... Mothra is on the back of Rodan, using the silly string of doom, while Godzilla holds King Ghidorah down, and they actually web up King Ghidorah's heads all together, like in Mothra vs. Godzilla. Godzilla actually lifting Ghidorah and tossing him like he's a child slamming into a wall, and Ghidorah is able to get away. Thus, the movie is at a close, as the princess gets her memory back from the headshot, and Godzilla goes home, Rodan goes home, wherever their homes are, Mothra goes back to Inman Island with the Shobijin, as the princess gives a farewell to the police officer who was just so brave. And that is Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, or Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. I'm sorry, I'm used to calling him Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster because when I had this as a kid, I had the VHS copy, and they would call him Ghidorah. So, you know. I saw this film when I was about 4 years old, I'd say, and this film is awesome. Ghidorah was actually portrayed by Shoichi Hirose, who is also King Kong in King Kong vs. Godzilla as well. It is an interesting take with the cop drama, with the reporter, and with the princess becoming a Venusian. And it's just, the story is all over the place. However, the introduction of King Ghidorah, the return of Godzilla, seeing Mothra again, and then tying Rodan to this, making this all one big happy franchise, I'd have to give this film an S. Yes, this is one of the biggest Godzilla films, one of the biggest films of the Showa series, and is a must. This version I have, I got it a few years ago. I think it's 2006 this version came out. It has the English and the Japanese version on, plus a bunch of extras, and is a definite watch. Okay guys, Scojo851, saying see y'all later.